greetings. I'm glad you all could make it. Welcome to the Shadow Star Nexus. I'm Fleet Captain Ri'shad, and I'm glad our guests from the Federation, the Klingon Defense Force, the Romulan Republic, and the Dominion, and of course other alliances, were able to make it here today. Please get comfortable. The replicators are at your disposal for this Star Trek Online Starship Stats Review. We will be looking at one of my favourite vessels from my home away from home, the Dyson Sphere. Well, my people, the Unborn Solace, are all too familiar with such places. Well, such a place. But before we go any further, and random race trivia aside, let's say a thank you to Tribal Typhoon, XG Blackbird, and Sky Hawkins, who have helped to make this video possible. Simultaneously, can I also say a thank you and hands up an acknowledgement to Augmented Dictator Games, who I may or may not have been relying on when it came to help with these builds. Yeah, I went for a distinctive selection of these videos to come up with something a little bit different from the last time I did the review of this ship. Oh, that's right, this is a re-review covering the X2 upgrades as well, that we can see the ship and its maximum performance. But side note, maximum performance for my build style. I may have used Oggy as a plate of reference, a starting point. I am a support player. He's a DPS. I utilised his builds in order to come up with something that was more my speed and style. And Oggy, can't thank you enough. Why? Because my weakest version that I will show you, well, even that one did really damn well. Now, before we go any further, I should note that previously this was quite the expensive ship to acquire, but now it is part of the Disco Inferno Muds bundle, and therefore it can be acquired at account unlock. And if you haven't, I strongly advise doing so, because this ship is absolutely fantastic. There's a reason why the Unborn Solace appreciate the buy all, since they massively helped upgrade our Sentry defense net. Coordinated link defense modules like this, brilliant. Oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with the stats. Okay, hijinks time. These videos, they work in a certain format, but sometimes it's worth me skipping ahead because it's really brief. So I'm going to do that right here. But please remember that following this, we will be talking about the stats, consoles and traits, the Lobi buy all set, as it's kind of related and worthwhile knowing, and then we shall see this ship in action and summarize. But here's the important part. Customization. Oh, Space Barbie, it's always so important. I want to make this clear right now. You can see how the Bial sentries are supposed to look. That is the Bial hull on the ones that surround my ship. My ship is using the Discovery vanity hull. Now, why would I be doing that? Simply put, as far as customization goes, we won't be covering that in this video because there is none. You go in there, you got a basic starship hull, sorry, basic starship bridge, one hull type, no customization modules. The paint texture and patterns have a very limited effect on the ship style, and no alternative hull types. It's very limiting, but that's fine. because as you can see, this is one of those ships that works really well with practically every single vanity shield or special shield you can put on the ship. So note that you can get a lot of good looks out of this ship. Now, even the Iconian shield looks good. Even the green shield looks good on this ship. But okay. Well, the actual stats that are now on screen and have been hovering there waiting for me to actually look at them. We have a tier 6 available to any faction science vessel. Important note that, because in a lot of places you'll note it doesn't mention what it is, but by its mastery package this is a science vessel. There's a hull modifier of 1.35, a shield modifier of 1.45, 4 forward weapons and 3 aft. Bit of an unusual science vessel. 3 device slots, a base turn rate of 7. Yeah, unusual science vessel, that's slow. Impulse modifier of 0.17, inertia rating of 50, bonus powers of plus 5 to weapons and plus 15 to auxiliary, exactly what you'd expect. The sensor analysis ability and subsystem targeting package, science vessel. Gather intelligence as it is an intel vessel. Secondary deflector, the ability to equip dual cannons. The full mastery package provides additional exotic damage, Starship shield hit points, healing, shield regeneration and hardness. Sorry, I'm tripping over myself here. Its consoles are definitely more fitting to old school builds than the modern top builds. Anyone? There's a reason why I looked at that. Thank you, Oggy. You are definitely the best I know at that. 4 tactical slots, 2 engineering, 5 science. Exactly what you'd expect. X upgraded to X2, you have 2 universal consoles as well. Now, the bridge officer stations kind of make or breaks this ship, and it's not sure how to approach this. It doesn't make a big deal to me, but it might to some of you. Bear in mind, I am a support player. Some of this has a different effect on me than it does most. I have noticed that tanks and DPSs tend to agree with bridge officer positions. Control players are 50-50. Let's see how you agree with me on this one. Straight off the bat, we have our tactical seating. 1 ensign tactical, 1 lieutenant commander tactical. Our engineering seating is a lieutenant engineering with command specialization. Our science seating is a commander science with intel specialization. Tactical strikes right there. And finally, we have a lieutenant commander universal. Now, strictly speaking, it both sounds really strong and really weak at the same time. Obviously, this is a very strong surgical strikes starship. Straight off the bat, I'm going to say that right now. If I'd gone with a surgical strikes build, which I didn't do because I've done it in the past and I don't need to, well, in an ISA, it's not hard to get up to 140, 150, 160. That's doing basic stuff. I don't know, I don't think I've hit 160 with my surgical strikes. Or something else. I wish I had all my passes, I'd show you them all, but unfortunately I've only got one I can pull up for you right now. And it's not the best for the ship. Still, it's good. Fundamentally want to put this forwards though. Based on the stats alone, we've got a ship that is a brilliant shield tank. Easy enough to say that. It is a brilliant shield tank, good hull tank, and as we go into other things, you're going to really start to understand that. The 2 engineering is not an overall weakness once you've X upgraded it twice, because now you've got 4 engineering slots if you need them. We'll see. The overall magnificence of possibly having 7 science console slots, Not a big hit. Yeah, you know EPG builds. It's not a big deal, that one, because EPG builds tend to just prioritize science ships, but it's not really the number of science consoles that matter there, because they use a lot of universal consoles. sorry. Naughty. As far as DPS goes on this ship, ooh, we've already said surgical strikes worked really well. Beam fire at will. Beam overload. If you know your anti-proton builds and are good with them, this is actually one of those ships where you get some serious advantages, Butchers behind me aside. But you don't have to go anti-proton. Any build works relatively well on this ship as far as energy goes. I would even say going with dual heavy cannons is an okay option. Just keep in mind, it's a slow turning ship for a science vessel. Anyone? 1,000 cuts, let's do it. You can tell what one of the Oggy videos I was watching was. Hello Juggernaut. Simply put, I'm quite a big fan of this vessel. So, let's skip on over and have a look at the actual real impact as why I'm a big fan of this vessel. Frankie said hi. Okay, all seriousness. No. So I went with a few types of builds on this ship, and you can tell from the mess at the bottom there. Like I said, EPG, fire at will, beam overload. These will relatively work with the same specs because, well, the more you know, the more you see. Let me quickly go over that quickly, but if you really want a good breakdown of how to do a build on this sort of ship, seriously, go check out Oggy. As you can see, I've used the more basic space traits. I took Oggy's advice for Calm Before the Storm, and boy does that pay. That pays a lot with my beam fire at will build and the beam overload build. I've used calculated broadsides on both the overload and the fire at will because Intel specialization, and I'm using an Intel ability down there. Once again, advised by Oggy. Fundamentally though, this is one of those builds which is designed to take advantage of the Starship's primary gimmick, its Sentry mode. The turning into a defensive structure and being a pain in the rear to beat. And I'll tell you one thing, it works. Now, Stu 1701 is quite a fan of the console himself for his lazy boats, because I love it too. But the biggest fundamental thing that I really want to focus on right now is recognizing that what this ship does well is defense. That is why my main builds are all either Sentry or Defender. The EPG Defender, whoops, to disable that quickly. My EPG build, that one took advantage of the fact that this is a science vessel, and quite frankly for you, although Temple is better for science vessels, obviously, this ship doesn't do bad. You can see what sort of approach I took. Neutronic Eddy, luckily that doesn't throw anyone around anymore. Plasma Storm, I'm using the average traits that you would be using on it. But honestly, on all of these builds of mine, I've got the defensive net. Honestly, knock that one out, put something in that you prefer. That defensive net, for what I do, it works on a general level, but it's actually better that I utilize stuff like reactive radiometric shielding, which is my way of for a moment acting like a tank, taking a little bit of damage, resisting that damage, and then sponging it back out to both damage enemies as well as heal my allies. That's what this ship's design is meant for. It is defensive. It is there to aid my allies. I'm a support player. That's what I do. I've also taken advantage of other abilities like Genesis Seed, and you'd be amazed how useful that is in this one. The Sentry mode is being used on them all. This EPG one is probably the one where the Sentry mode is least utilized. This one ended up being more of a 5 magics science boom build. Hey Oggy, can you guess which video I used when I primarily set this one up? All I'm going to say is, this is one of these ships where, although it would seem not so versatile, looks can be deceiving. Do not judge this one. Do not judge this book by its cover. Now, like I said, let's focus on some important aspects, and as that, I'm going to swap back to the fire at will because there's distinctive components to look at here. We're going to focus on what you get with this ship first. So, let's go mastery. And look at that trait. Intruder Discouragement. Critical buffs on entering combat. Critical grants defensive boost. Okay. When you critical hit, you get a +5 to all damage resistance rating for 20 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. Plus 1% to hull regeneration for 20 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. When you enter combat, +40 to 0% critical chance for the first 10 seconds, once per 60 seconds. Now, most of the time, if you've entered combat, you're at least going to be in it for 60 seconds. So the next time you re-enter combat, it will proc again. That's pretty much guaranteed. That's because of the way the red alert cooldown thing works. But it is important to understand that in regards to this trait, it is purely a defensive trait. It is straight up tanking alone. Now, I don't want to say this is a really good meta trait or anything for tanking. I'm a little bit too inexperienced at tanking to comment there. As much as I understand the basics, personally speaking, the more I listen to meta, the more I consider meta to be that of the elite level, and I'm an advanced player. Well, I will notice this. At the advanced level, this is certainly a very good trait. And if you are sort of beginner level, it's worth the slot just to give yourself some damage resistance, especially in the early game and some of the earlier missions. But after that, you're probably going to be dropping this for something better. Mid game, yeah. End game, no thank you. Fundamentally, DPSs ain't going to want it. Support players, it's taking up a slot that could be better utilized. And tanks, you'll find it useful, tanks. Now, as a result, that means I'm giving this trait a 6 out of 10. I apologize if you really like this trait, but I'm just going to be blunt on it. Don't worry, because with this ship, we're going to suddenly go the opposite direction. Just going to say it now, 10 out of 10, okay? The console. Console Universal Sentry Mode. A 100% beautiful console. Doesn't matter how many times I trigger it off. Never get bored of that animation. It's beautiful. It sounds like trains coming into action. Train coming into the station. The click clunk, and suddenly you're a defensive overlord on the entire environment. And I will go that far because, well, considering the area you take up, you get quite the wide range. Slightly further than the standard 10 kilometers, I might add. Thank you, Sentry ships, each counting as your own pet. Oh, did I fail to mention that? Yeah. They all count as their own little pet. And because of this, although they each take damage, the funny thing is they can't take enough damage to be disabled. And you can utilize something like sensor suppression burst that you get with a very lovely Alliance carrier to boost them further. Thank you, Oggy, for pointing that one out. Fundamentally, this can be quite powerful. And that's just talking about them on the basic level. The main thing to recognize with whoopsie daisy, with this console, is its use. It summons sentries to aid you in combat, calls in 10 of them to aid your ship, anti-proton beams chain from your ship to the sentries, and then from the sentries to targets nearby. Now, you can see how far each one of these sentries are from me. They are a difference, and I'm going to point this out now for importance. It will not always set up the same way. Sometimes you do have sentries that are further away from you than others. Very rarely do you get a perfect circle. And the furthest I've had this is a sentry actually 4 kilometers away. Now, even with that, they are still set up and they are still functioning. And if you've used something like temple backstep and jumped your ship back, they stay in place and you still augment with them. It's a really weird way to glitch your area of effect. Now, side note, when you glitch your ship out of the circle, it does cause some negative aspects, so I don't recommend doing that. What I do recommend remembering is that each one of them has the pet's range of fire. Just something to keep in mind. I say this because each one will be firing a beam off to do 2,403 anti-proton damage. The considered negative side to this console is the fact that it will root you in place, but if you're using, like I am, anchored, well, that's okay, you're not moving anyway. Sometimes it's what you combine together, not what you lose. The passive abilities of this console are also quite nice, considering these are all using anti-proton weaponry. So, plus 13.7 anti-proton damage and plus 13.7 to Starship control expertise. On a ship like this, that's brilliant because you can be utilizing gravity well with certain other Starship traits to drag enemies in and sizable damage in one. Also, the DPSs will like you because you're grouping the enemies together. The control bow, it's a great console. Oh, this is a console I would recommend for any build, just generally speaking. Actually, yeah, I would recommend it for any build. That's scary to think about. But that's why I give it 10 out of 10. That's why so many YouTubers really appreciate it, and that's why, honestly, getting this ship is worth it. The ship is magnificently strong, and then coupled in with it, what you get with it is magnificently strong. It's just one of those things that has me hyped, almost as hyped as the Worker Flight Deck Carrier, only that comes in the same set. Okay, I did mention that there are some other things to pointedly pay attention to with this ship. One of them is the fact that you get bioweaponry with the ship. Now, I've already discarded them for reasons, but I'll give you the basic rundown. you get a bunch of bile beams. These are basic anti-proton level damage. That's atypical, what you'd expect. But they do not, instead of having the block of critical chance and critical damage little boost that normally comes with, well, anti-proton weapons, these anti-proton weapons will have the bile refraction, meaning each shot will chain to an additional target for 5% of your previous attack. So no matter what, this is a 100% guaranteed proc. It will chain onto another target, and it will do 5% of the damage that you just dealt. So 5% in my case, or 1668.3 anti-proton damage. Awesome. With the right firing cycle haste, beam fire at will, beam overload, this really gets powerful quick. Because each beam gets that bounce. And that bounce is a 360-degree arc. So to give you an example, if I was targeting this Sentry and I hit it, it could bounce to this one, it could bounce to this one, because this one's within 10 kilometers of it, it could bounce to that one. And it is magnificent. I love that about the bile refraction, and I love the fact that it gets the full range to jump with as well. It will jump to the closest target, but if the closest target is 10 kilometers away, it's still going to hit them. Now, this can be made better. That's by using the Lobi store equipment. Now, don't think I have my Lobi on me at the moment, so I can't quite show you it in the store, but I can show you the equipment itself. First of all, we have the bio-linked Sentry coordination matrix, which once again has the passive abilities of improving anti-proton damage even further. Considering this is going to be linked to even more anti-protons in a second, you can tell what it also gives you a plus 3.4% to hull capacity. Great for your tanks. But the best part of this whole thing comes when you're fighting a certain bunch of people in 9th Wall. Removes an incoming control effect and makes you immune to control for 5 seconds. Takes 30 seconds to recharge. This passive effect will trigger whenever you are affected by a control ability, so long as it has recharged. Wonderful. No longer am I having to fly off a million miles into the distance because I've been hit by some kind of lock. Sorry. But as you can see, this is part of a 3-piece set. The other part of the set, well, it's up here. The omnidirectional bio-linked Sentry anti-proton beam. Essentially, this is exactly the same as the standard omnidirectional anti-proton anti-proton beam. So, I won't cover it too much. It's still got the refraction effect. It's a second one that you can equip with the original bio anti-proton, and with them both having refraction, it has its benefit. Then we have the Bio Sentry anti-proton kinetic torpedo. Ooh, now, please understand me when I say this is a bit of a rough one, because this is both a kinetics weapon and an energy weapon. We are not talking about I'm trying to think. The Agony Phaser torpedo, I think I have that in here. Maybe, if I'm lucky. Nope, apparently I don't. Blast. Well, think of an energy torpedo. You've got your Agony Phaser torpedo, your morphogenic Polar One torpedo, or crystalline anti-proton torpedo. These torpedoes are all energy torpedoes. They don't deal kinetic damage. Their damage is based on your energy type. Let's have fun. Bit of an awkward way to fight. This torpedo is the same, but not. As you can see, it deals within its 90-degree arc, 6,790.7 kinetic damage. This is essentially, if I'm recalling correct, between a photon and a quantum torpedo in power, as well as recharge time. But has biral refraction. So, any enemies hit by this torpedo, yes, including by the torpedo spread, there is a chance that per torpedo, sorry, not a chance, a 100% chance that per torpedo hit, you will deal energy damage equal to 5% of the kinetic damage you just dealt with this torpedo. So yeah, it's a kinetic weapon, but it's also an energy. The chaining shot will deal anti-proton damage just like the rest of biral refraction. It's just a bit weird when it comes from this torpedo. Overall, when it comes to this set, quite frankly, more so because of the set bonuses. First of all, the 2-piece set bonus will give you oppressive balance. Biral anti-proton weapons will chain an additional time, which means all of these chain to one enemy, then they can chain to another enemy. You can see where this is going, can't you? Other anti-proton weapons gain biral refraction, so if you're using Dephelic anti-protons, which are my personal favourite anti-protons, they will now have the biral refraction ability themselves. And biral refraction deals 100% bonus damage. Now, let me clarify this. That's not 100% damage of the weapon to the next weapon enemy over. Biral refraction does 5% of your attack's damage. That 100% bonus damage is 100% of that 5%. So it's powerful, but it's not game breaking. Don't overestimate the effects of this. Biral refraction is once again described here. Each shot chains to an additional target, dealing 5% of the attack damage. And, well, there are certain things that affect it. It's nice. The 3-piece set is where I get a little bit iffy because I like it. I also don't. I'd only really use the 3-piece set if you are using a full biral build. Gives you Predator and Prey. 2-minute recharge time, so basically it's a console ability. Remove all control effects from your starship, so any negative control effects you got on your ship you're now clear of, and you get a bonus 50% anti-proton damage for 30 seconds. This is very powerful, but is it worth having to slot the torpedo, the console, and the Omni? No, depends on what you're going with. Once again though, fundamentally, I love it. Can't argue against it. I think it's brilliant. Ain't that, Oggy? See that? Speaking about Oggy a lot today, aren't I? Well, I'm really hyping up this ship. Let me show you why.
Yeah, I don't believe in destiny. I just do what's best for me. Don't listen to my enemies. They're just full of jealousy. Yeah, this legacy. You gon' see what's left of me. You gon' see success in me. You ain't seen the rest of me. I just wanna be the best at what I know. Better than the rest, just watch me grow. Put me to the test and watch me go. This is my quest, I'ma make it known. They call me obsessive, oh I know. Call me selective with my notes. Call me aggressive with my flow. Call me offensive even though Joe, I ain't gonna lie, life's tough. Try to get by, life's rough. Try to do it right, it's not enough. Even though you try, you still mess up. But I'm still gonna fight for what I love, still gonna die for what I love, still gonna try, I won't give up, still gonna fight until I've won. They say I'm way too obsessed and I've got nothing left, and I'm not quite there yet, but those words they'll regret, cause I've got something left and I'm not giving in. I will not let them win, I won't stop till the end, no. Some injuries, mentally and physically, studied them religiously so I don't repeat history. And people won't admit to me they don't want a victory bad enough to get a C, they'd rather just go leave it be. And this journey I've been on since 13, working hard and learning, never stopping searching, yeah. It's burning, all this passion hurts me, I took action working, writing down these words. No, I'm not okay, I just wanna be something, I don't wanna be nothing, living all alone. No, I'm not alright, I'm just barely getting by, but I'll tell you I'm just fine, so you leave me alone. They say I'm way too obsessed and I've got nothing left, and I'm not quite there yet, but those words they'll regret, cause I've got something left and I'm not giving in. I will not let them win, I won't stop till the end, no. Losing time, I'm fading fast, I just wanna make it last. Try to let go of the past, I close my eyes, embrace the blast. Sleepless nights and headaches stack, restlessness to hell and back. What's my purpose, what do I grab? A slippery surface, a heart attack. And sometimes you just gotta believe there's something that'll give you relief. There's something that'll have what you need, what you need. We're broken, it's tragic, we're not all elastic, but maybe there's magic, believe you could have it. And I know of sadness, the anxious and panic, the infinite vastness of all that is blackness.
If there's one thing that I find funny, it's that in the final one, I was flying terribly. I couldn't have been doing any worse piloting if I tried. I was piloting like a novice. I'm going to hands up and acknowledge that. My trigger timing, all of it, terrible. Which is bad when you consider that I had nerfed a lot of the damage output from Oggy's boom side build so that I could give this ship a little bit more support aspects, and the result of that is quite large. I mean a lot. I knew that I was at least halving the damage output of this build. Knew it straight away. So it's fun for me to simply see what I was actually expecting to be a smaller number. Because the problem with support builds is the more you focus towards support, and I really focused on support with this, the weaker your damage output is going to be. Support builds are the weakest of the lot. The next, the strongest level of support build you're going to get are the controls. They tend to be the strongest because a lot of control abilities are also quite good at throwing out some damage, and you can combine them with them in EPG build, and that brings it back. But this EPG-esque build that I used here is very focused on the support aspect, the debuffing, the controlling, and just generally making it easier for my allies to do damage. So when I stopped doing that, suddenly it goes the opposite direction. This was my beam fire at will build on this ship. Now, preemptive warning, you saw that fire at will build right at the beginning. Whoopsie daisy. This sucker was nerfing itself because, as you saw in that first combat in the ISA, I kept accidentally knocking off Sentry mode to enable mobile defense net. Yeah, because they can't be active together. Whenever I did that, I actually lost DPS potential. So long as the mobile defense net was up, I was actually in my weakest state, doing a lot less DPS damage than I would have been doing at any other point. Which is why it's so funny for me then to think that it got such a high output. That the damage output for this ship, as my beam fight wheel build, was 131k in an ISA, and preemptive warning, if you try to emulate the support DPS build that I've gone with here, don't do it without a tank. Because the unfortunate side effect is because it's so bio focused, and because it's taking advantage of the full bio set, there's a lot of threat generation going on, and that can be a bit of an issue, just to say the least. Though happily, I managed to do a full run without dying, even though there didn't seem to be a tank in this one. And, well, quite frankly, made me quite happy, since that was still a support DPS build. Instead of a full support build, because it was a support DPS, it meant I was doing more damage as well. The big thing to note: if you're a support player, that's the damage output to expect. If you're a DPS player or some kind of support DPS tank, that's the kind of damage output to expect. And yes, I say tank to that because tanks naturally deal quite a lot of damage generating threat. What I've got here would be a great tank if it had more survivability. So it's not a good tank. Slight problems, eh? That's to say the least. Honestly, I love this ship, and you can see why. If done wrong, it's not great, but if you know what you're doing, you take advantage of some knowledge, you can start building up the damage, and I'm pretty willing to bet that a good ISE build with this ship is going to start hitting the 400, 500, 600 marks. Personally, this is not a ship to underestimate. So, comes down to this. Final scores, simple. Support. It does it bloody well. Support score is 8 out of 10. Tank. I think I've just talked about how easily it generates threat. It's got a lot of armor to it. The only real weakness is the 4 engineering slots. Gotta be a little bit harsh on it. You get 7 out of 10. DPS. This is a Dusai beast. This is a EPG DPS beast. This is DPS build beauty. Honestly, 8.5 out of 10. The only thing stopping me from giving it higher is because Isamags are so good at the moment. A proper beam overload build wants Isamags these days. Fortunately, you can't really go that push on this, but makes for a good torp build. We can give it that. Side torp boat does it really damn well. I actually kind of wish that instead of EPG I went full side torp. If I did that, I'm pretty sure my support build would have actually been a fair bit stronger. I sacrificed. I knew what I was doing. Learn from my mistakes and do not emulate me. Guys, sincerely, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you have found this informative in some way. And I look forward to hearing from you in the comments section. Let me know what you think of the ship. Whether you want to get it, whether you plan on getting the new Muds Disco Inferno bundle. Trust me, while it's on sale, it's 1000% worth getting just for the D7 Miracle Worker Flight Deck carrier. Seriously. But with all that being said, guys, seriously, thank you to the individuals now credited on screen: Sky Hawkins, XG Blackbird, Tribal Typhoon. Thank you so much. Guys, I do now, along with Patreon, have YouTube membership. I'm sorting out Patreon a little bit better. And links below for my other medias, should you wish to follow up and, well, know more about what I'm working on. But seriously, guys, thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll see you next time. And remember, live long and prosper, my friends. Till next time. Ciao for now.